As soon as Christmas was over, it was the first thing my mother would pack because she got really tired of me doing this over and over and over and over. Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go! Good morning, everybody. It's George the Antique Nomad. For those of you who love all these air plants and are buying all these cute little planters to put them in, well, Spanish moss is the ultimate air plant. People used to rip it down thinking it was a parasite and bad for the trees, but it's just an air plant. It's just hanging there. It's wonderful stuff. I just love it. Look how magnificent this tree is. But that's not really what you came for. So let's show you something interesting in the world of antiques and vintage. We have another estate sale this weekend, and it's a cute old house built in 1959. This is still occupied by the original family. The parents have passed on, and the house is going to be for sale. So we are selling everything that's left. And come, let's take a look at what's left, because we spent about 10 hours the other day organizing. It was all just sort of in piles, but it was pretty organized. So we were able to lay everything out, move things around, and make it look like a house again. They had all the furniture in one room and all of other stuff in another room, and we wanted to make it look more like you would actually expect to see in a home, because we find that things sell better if they're presented in the context of where they are, as opposed to just lining up furniture in rows. I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the things we do to stretch space and also to keep things safe. We have a nice carport, so we brought a lot of things that are weatherproof outside. We're not expecting bad weather this weekend, but if you saw my recent video about the antique show in Mount Dora, you'll realize that, yeah, weather can be a problem in Florida. It's the Sunshine State, and it's beautiful right up until it isn't. So we're going to go in through the kitchen here. This house really hasn't been updated since it was built in 1959, so there's a lot of original stuff, and a lot of things in the cabinets were original as well. I don't know why, these silly daisy glasses, I just always like these. These are from the 70s, and you saw them all over the place, but I like them, and they do sell. We've got a neat old kitchen scale there, a little bit of cast iron, the lime green Tupperware, wish we had some more of that. She liked chickens, and look at all the different chickens. There's new ones, there's old ones. The tray here where the deviled eggs is from the 70s. You've got cute little critters that are anywhere from old children's dishes. These date back to the 1950s. These were made in Israel, strangely enough. I didn't realize that they made ceramics like this in Israel. These are porcelain. And porcelain is a theme in this house because this gal really loved her porcelain. She was a porcelain painter, and she was a good one. She was in an international organization. She won a Best in Show at the Florida World's Fair. We have that piece for sale. So we'll get to showing you all of that here in a minute. That's a neat stoneware piece. This is some studio, possibly Japanese. It's really hard to tell because there's no mark. It may have had a paper label that's now gone, but it's hand painted under the glaze, and it's really well done. This is an old piece here. This is from about 1920. This great pattern, I believe this was by the Monmouth or Western Pottery Companies. I'm not absolutely sure about that. McCoy made similar ware, but I don't believe this is a McCoy great because their pattern is a little different. We're going to come in through here. We have an old wall oven. Around 1960, lots of Florida houses were made with wall ovens. This one looks like a 1970s replacement. That is for sale. This house, unfortunately, as sweet as it is probably going to be torn down because this part of Tampa is all being replaced. Single-story homes are being replaced by two-story McMansions because this is the nice part of town, and people will buy this for the lot. Now, she really liked her blue and white, as a lot of porcelain fans do, and she loved mahogany furniture. And while mahogany may not be the thing that a lot of people are buying currently. In this part of town, it makes sense because there are a lot of older homes like this, and that's why I think we have a good chance to sell these pieces. I'm going to shut the door on this one so you can see, because it really does have a nice look to it. And what's great is the size. It's not gigantic. Neither is this one over here, which is sort of a Hepplewhite style. And let's take a look at some of the fun things that are in here. She has some seashells and coral and things like that. But there's also this plate that I really wanted to take out and show you, because this is Majolica. It's a very cute piece. It does have one hairline crack, so we're not going to price it outrageously high, but it is a nice piece. There was a time that would have been a $95 piece. I think they're more like $45 to $50 these days. We'll probably price it around $15 to $20. Little Wedgwood shell box. You're going to see prices on some things. We really are only starting to price today because we spent the rest of the week getting it ready. But the family tried to have a sale themselves. And a lot of times if someone's already tried to have a sale, I won't take an estate sale. But I made an exception here because when I saw a Pyrex bowl for $1 that would have sold immediately to a dealer and it was still sitting here, I realized they didn't get a good crowd. And it turned out they only advertised to their friends on Facebook, and the neighbors came, and that was it. And they didn't have the whole house available. So I knew there'd be something good in here. This little gal, they had priced at $10. I may leave that price. She's cute because she would have held toothpicks or little spoons. So she's a mustard pot. She's got a cute little face. She's going to be Austrian or German, from about 1910. And she doesn't have any sort of a mark. She might even be as far back as 1890. Even though we started making people put marks on things coming over from foreign countries in the 1890s, we didn't really enforce it for a while. This is a set of Limoges called Vine Rose. And this set still sells pretty well. This is by Haviland China. Haviland is considered one of the most high-end and best quality of the Limoges china makers. And so this set still sells, even though Limoges is not as expensive as it used to be. A similar set sold on eBay recently for $350 or dollars plus shipping. So we'll probably price this around $175 to $200. In here we have examples of Delft Blue. We have Bristol Glass. This piece here is Portuguese, but it's got a good mark on it. We have a piece of Lenox here. We've got the cracked egg. A lot of people like to collect these now. They were very popular in the 70s, but it is actually an older style. This teapot is of fairly recent vintage from the La Dolce Vita Tropical Fan Collection. Made in China, but you know, some of these things are starting to have collectors. Franz porcelain, for example, which is really nicely made, sells for good prices. So can't discount things nowadays just because they say China. That's not always the kiss of death. We set this Duncan Fife Harpback table and chair set with various glassware and another set of dinnerware that they had. This is Adams. Adams is one of the older China companies that produced in England, and this is Calyx ware, and this is the Ming Toy pattern. This set also sells still, and we think that this probably values at retail at about $300. We're going to be looking for about half that. Some nice big silver plate candlestick holders, and then I wanted to point out some of the elegant glass of the Depression era. Look how nice those patterns are. In fact, I'll take it where you can see it against the blue rug. Yes, a blue rug. So that you can see the pattern a little bit more. See the corsage? Clear glass is currently not really in fashion. I think people are going to start rediscovering it. It really is about how you present it. If you presented those full of red wine and the pattern popped out, people would go, ooh, that's neat. And that's how I think people are going to see things again. These little chicken plates are just fun. These are Fitz and Floyd, Coq du Village. And Fitz and Floyd, their earlier pieces were usually dated. This one has a 1979 date. I think this is probably a good set. I'll have to look this one up. I haven't had this before. We also have an entire set of sterling collared mother of pearl handled flatware from about 1910. This little piece of furniture here is really nice. I like the way it's figured. It's got marquetry for the flowers. And it's just a nice petite size again. The nice thing with the furniture in this house is even though it's an antique, old-fashioned style, it's mainly stuff that people can use because it's small and movable. There's not a gigantic china cabinet in here, for example. And there's also this really great shield mirror from about 1900. Shields were popular, patriotic-inspired designs around the time of the Spanish-American War. You can tell this is the original glass. It's got the beveling. And look how my fingers, see the big gap in the reflection between my fingertips? That's because glass back then was not cut as thinly as it is now. And so an original piece of glass, you'll see that gap. A newer piece of glass, you won't because it's cut much more thinly. This vase is Bristol glass with the exotic bird, the waterfowl on it. I love that piece. It's such a pretty color. Bristol to me is a really overlooked thing in the market. I think it's because they made it in the United States as well as England, and we were kind of the rip-off people back then. Sorry, folks, but it's true. We stole the English designs. We actually had factory owners who went to England and recruited people who had worked for Bristol Glass companies in England and brought them over here to work in our companies and make the same thing. Because of that, neither the English nor the Americans can tell which is which. That sort of thing, by the way, is what led to the Sherman Antitrust Act and the requirement that things be marked, because the English companies retaliated by just making a ton of it and dumping it on our market and trying to put our companies out of business. This centerpiece bowl is a rather grand European Victorian piece. And look at the detail. All the hand painting in the flowers and the gilding. This was owned by the lady of the house because she was a real fan of porcelain and a porcelain painter herself. This one is similar to a piece that was found in a museum. I believe it's French. It's very heavy. It only has a mold number. It does not have a maker name because it is before that time that was required. And then there's a couple of really cute miniature paintings. The nice thing about this sale is there's going to be all sorts of stuff for every taste in collecting, as well as people just buying functional household items. My cousin's going to come and help, and he's going to bring some nails so that we can hang the rest of these on the wall. This one particularly is an older scene with the sailboats, and I need to do some research on this because the sale is tomorrow. And this could be a good artist. It seems rather painterly. Boat scenes often are very popular. It's signed A.G. Price. So we will be looking into who A.G. Price is so that we can price it appropriately. It is an oil on canvas, and it looks like it's early to mid-20th century. This room has an interesting amalgamation of various things, including a lot of portraiture on tile. This is something the lady of the house was very skilled with, and this piece, painted on porcelain, Evelyn Nesbit was a rather interesting woman. I will tell you a little more about her in a moment here, but I wanted to show this because this is the Best in Show ribbon, along with this, for the Florida State Fair. It was even shown in the newspaper in 1989 because she won this award, and then this was shown in a gallery. She actually did show in some of the local galleries here and knew some of the other artists, which means a lot of the art in this house could easily be by local artists and regional artists of some note. Evelyn Nesbit was really interesting because she was the mistress of a man named Stanford White at age 15, and then she married a man named Harry Thaw, whose sister had married into royalty, but his family never accepted her, and she was then involved in a murder scandal where Harry Thaw shot and killed Stanford White, her original boyfriend. This was around 1900, and she became very famous because she was the woman who apparently tempted these men to have this duel. This gal also liked to collect a lot of little portraits of George and Martha Washington, and some of these are quite old. This one looks like it's late Victorian. Of course, George Washington being born in 1732, there was a lot of interest that revived in the 1830s and the 1930s at the centennial of his birth and then the bicentennial of his birth. This looks like one of the French portraits that you see often, and these should do well. They're nicely hand-painted. They have that style, but these are more recent because, again, I believe that the lady of the house did these, but she was very skillful. The frame plates are hers. A lot of these portraits in tile are hers. And there's some real beauties here, I have to say. I like this gal with the amphora water vessel on her shoulder. This gentleman in his uniform. And then this has a wonderful old Victorian frame. Look at the detail in this with the light carving into the faux finish. That is a painted finish to look like wood. That was very popular to do in the 1850s and 60s especially because they didn't have access necessarily to exotic wood from around the world, so they would paint something to look like it. Now this looks like it's going to be a box of silver, but surprise, it is a lap desk. This is what you used when you took the train in the old days. You had your pens and your writing instruments, and then down under here, this would flip out and you'd have more quills and points and that sort of thing for your pen. And then if we can get this open, that's another storage for papers. This was basically a little portable wood briefcase, and those sell for, around $75 to $150 retail, depending. So we should do well with that. Some nice Fostoria. I believe this is Fostoria, the mulberry etch here. And nice furniture. This rug is not super old, but it's never been used. It has the original tag on it. It's a nice silk Turkish rug. And then here we go. We've got porcelain central here and some other things as well. A lot of these were done by the lady of the house, although this copper luster piece dates back to about the 1870s and would have been made likely in England. These are cute little cobalt salt cellars and spoons. The spoons may be sterling, and if that's the case, which I believe it is, we'll have to maybe move those up front where we can keep an eye on them. It's not a lot of sterling for value, but we still watch those sort of things at an estate sale. This is a Royal Ruby, Anchor Hocking, Ruby Red. When this came out in 1936 or 7, Anchor Hocking was the first company to figure out how to make a true red in the glass, not fired on, without having to use gold. Up until then, the average person, it was hard to afford red glass because they had to use gold to get this color. And so Royal Ruby became very popular because suddenly the masses could have relatively inexpensive red glass. Now, some of these pieces we'll have to go through are done by her, and some of these she bought and collected. And she also used some really good blanks. This one is an old Dresden, Germany relish dish. And it's hard to tell on a lot of these whether the lady of the house did these or if they were things that she bought and collected along the way. So as we're pricing today, we're going to have to do some research. Now, they did print this out, so we'll take a look where you see this pattern. This is a rather old pattern, this green transfer ware. And it is Mercer China. Mercer China from Ardmore, which is English. And you can see that sorted by most popular, well, the Ardmore is kind of down the list. I've always thought it was rather attractive, but it's going to be priced inexpensively because there are not so many people collecting this sort of thing. On the other hand, I think we'll do very well with all these little dresser jars, and look how cute that is. You open it up and there's another bird painted in there. And those things are just a hallmark of good quality. You know, when you see decoration where you're not expecting it, that means somebody went to great lengths to do it and thought it was very special. This is a cute old child's plate from about 1900. Look at them playing with the ball of yarn with the cat. And this one has a nice, again, English mark on it. Some of the porcelain in here is Limoges, some is Dresden. There are some other examples as well. Nice dome top trunk there. And then books. We've got a lot of books, including some pretty cute cookbooks. I have a gal who is a vlogger, and what she does is she takes old 1950s cookbooks. She does the recipes the way they were presented, including all the old ingredients like using lard and things like that, and she serves it to her family. 2 days later, she makes the same recipe, and she does it with modernization and substitution of ingredients to make it healthier and more modern. And then she has her family talk about which way they liked it better. And she has a big following and makes a couple $1,000s a month because people subscribe to this. I wish I could remember the name of her site, but she is in this area, and she comes to my sales and buys these sort of books. So I wanted to put them out where if she comes, she can see them, because this is where she gets her recipes from. Easy Do Parties, or the Scandinavian Air Service Smorgasbord, or the Better Homes and Gardens new cookbook. This cookbook, by the way, sells typically retail for about $8 to $10. So cookbooks can be pretty cool. A lot of these only sell for a few bucks, but they're kind of fun. Look how 70s this group of people are. Love those big hairstyles, the piled hair, the tennis outfit, very 70s. That looks like my friend Janet back in the day when she was a professional tennis player before she became a professional antique dealer. So there are some fun things in books. There are some vintage. There's some nice furniture here. Obviously, we still have things to get up on the walls. This is a handsome old metal frame in which a lovely woman with the head wrap and is painted on tile and has been inserted. This is quite fancy here. Let's see what the bottom looks like if we have a mark. Yes, this is classic rose from Germany. Now see, this is a more recent mark, probably 1960s. And so this is something that the lady of the house did that has the look of 1910s but is not. So we're going to have to be careful as we go through and price these things to make sure that we're accurate about what we're depicting here. And then this is Belique. This is a fairly new piece of Belique because it has that late green mark, but it does have the applied flowers, and that makes it a little more special. Then we have a really nice spinet desk. Spinet is anytime you, that's describing, let me turn this light on and see if we can show it better. A spinet desk, oh, I guess we need a bulb. Okay, well, another thing to put on the list. A spinet desk is where, like a spinet piano, where the top folds up and that's your desk surface. And people like these because the size, and especially right now with people working at home, desks are selling like crazy. There's also a lot of cute little boodle boxes. Now this one in the front here I recognize as being Nippon. This is Noritake Nippon because it has the Morimura Brothers label on the bottom. And then some of these, again, were painted by the lady of the house. I especially like this one for the shape. This blank is a Limoges blank. This is a young Queen Victoria, and this was painted by the woman who lived here. And then this funny little vase here. It's a wall vase, but actually when you see these flatbacks, these were generally meant to be car vases. These were put in fancy cars in the 1920s so that you'd have a bouquet of flowers. The other car in more recent times that had little flower vases in it, strangely enough, was the Volkswagen Beetle. So some of you may have actually seen those in your Volkswagen if you had one. Now we're going to come around the corner here, and we've got a variety of different things. Japanese porcelain, a nice gooseneck magnifier lamp, a bunch of silver plate. We didn't find a whole lot of sterling in this house. We did find a few pieces. We had to hang all the pictures back on the wall. When we came in here on Monday, everything had been taken down and put into stacks. They thought that it would be really great if they organized everything by putting it in piles in the house, and then we spent the whole week spreading it back out. But it's all working out fine. This doesn't look impressive, but it's actually a really great small chandelier. They had priced it $30. That's a great price that should sell it. And again, that's why I decided I could take this sale, is because I realized that they just did not get the people in here, or that stuff would have been gone. This is a neat old projector from the 50s. Some old albums here. Dance Little Bird went gold in Holland. So did a lot of stuff. Melodies of the 30s, Sinatra. We've got more Sinatra. These will probably sell. People seem to be really into Sinatra, although frankly they're rather common and not worth a lot. Calypsos, that's a fun label. So I think there's some things. We only charge about $2 each for records, and I will thumb through to see if there's any sleepers in there, but my guess is that we're just going to let people have fun. Set of silver plate flatware. This is the King's pattern. This is a very old pattern, although this set is not very old. But this shell on the back is the King's pattern. And this particular set is a silver plate set. And it looks like it was made by Toll, so it's good quality, but it's not terribly old. But that pattern's been around for, I think, a few hundred years at least at this point. The game table is really cool. The top flips open, and this is something to look for if you're in a house and you're dealing in or looking for your own home for small furniture. Game tables are really great because they fold into a small table, and then you can flip open the lid, and when you flatten that, you'll actually be able to turn it so that it's wider and you have a big square on top, and then it stores. So it's a nice thing for a small space. Great for apartment living, actually. This is Johnson Brothers Rose Chintz, which is still a pretty popular pattern because it doesn't have gold or silver, and Johnson Brothers was good quality, and you can use it in the dishwasher and the microwave, so people will still buy it. Irish coffee set from the early 70s. It's funny, I've seen these for years and years. I never noticed the shamrock in the stem until I set these up on this table this way. So we always have something new to learn. This is a nice chandelier that they conveniently already took down for us, so we're going to just leave it in that box, price it at about $100, and watch it go to someone else's home. There is some paper ephemera. This is 1921. I believe it's the Boston Globe, and it's talking about how Harding's going to do a naval holiday, and they're trying to make sure there's never a Great War again. I wish they'd been successful. But this was something that they bought to collect out of historic newspaper archives. These were originally archived in the Library of Congress. And then there's some they just kept. There's one. This is Kennedy. I did not realize that just a few days before he was murdered in Dallas, Kennedy was here in Tampa. It was the stop before Dallas, and that's him arriving. So here we have a bunch of paper ephemera, and there's some interesting things. I didn't pick through all of it, but I'll show you some of the highlights. It's really neat that we have a photograph scrapbook. This is from McDill Field here in Tampa, Florida. And this is the lady of the house in 1945. She's the porcelain painter. This is her official pass. She worked at McDill. I believe she met her husband, and they married and came back to Tampa after they were stationed various places. This is Fort Benning, Georgia, which would have been a training place. Some of the pictures are gone, but it still has some pretty neat military pictures, and people like these 1940s military scrapbooks. Sometimes they really like them because if they're I've found some that had pictures from the war theater. Here's a neat thing, sort of. The guy is actually pointing the gun at the other guy. I don't think you're supposed to do that. I'm pretty sure that's against your rifleman's training, but obviously they were having some fun with this. It does not look like it was serious. And that actually will make this a fair bit more valuable because those two pictures are likely to be worth $5 to $10 each just because of the pose. So some cool stuff in here. This should sell. The scrapbook is sort of similar. And then there's various tourist attractions, places they went, things from old airlines that don't exist anymore, things from old restaurants that don't exist anymore. Most of these are going to be $1 or $2, but the people who buy them will be able to sell them online for $5 or $6 or $8 each. We have a couple of yard-long photos of Army guys and signatures about where they came from, which is really helpful. People always buy these. I suspect that most of the stuff on this table will be gone within about 15 minutes of opening the sale. And then there's costume jewelry and some boudoir items. Some cute costume jewelry. Not a lot that's real vintage, but there are a few things. I took a few things home for safekeeping that are coming back in time for the sale that'll be in a little case. And then perfume bottles. I love this ice blue, very popular color around 1920. This one is likely to be check with the detail and those proportions. These are Victorian. The blown blue glass is nice, and these are Victorian as well. That tall skinny vase would have been used as a bud vase or possibly a toothbrush holder. And here's L'Art du Temps in the original box. A lot of these were made by Lalique. We're going to open this and see if this particular one is a Lalique. Okay, it does not have the birds on it, so it's not the fancy Lalique one, which is too bad because that's worth about $65. But this one's cute too, and it'll sell for something. They had a lot of jewelry priced. And again, some of the jewelry I saw made me realize that nobody was here, because if they'd been here, they had things priced as little as 10 cents. I never price anything at 10 cents.
So while I'm thinking of it, please comment in the space below here and also hit the thumbs up button to like this video. If you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button below. Also hit the bell below to be notified of new videos coming every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And thank you so much for following along. Let's go back to this video.
My goal with an estate sale is to price the merchandise so that the customer gets a good deal, resellers can buy, but I have to respect the client, and I also have to make money too. And so I typically price antique and vintage about half of what somebody might get retail, and I don't price anything below 50 cents because my last day is half off. Half of 50 cents is a quarter. I don't want to have to make change for half of a quarter. I don't have any half pennies. It's not even worth putting a price of a dime on something to me. Now there's some kind of crazy interesting art too. Funnily enough, there is a little bit of modernism, and again, I think this is because she was involved with the art community here. This one is called The Mask of Venice. It's collage art. I personally love collage art. It's the one thing I actually did well in art. I'm not really an artistic person by nature, but I do really enjoy collage. And then this is modernism. I think this is probably a local artist. I like the color. I actually think the subject is interesting. They had $40 on it and nobody bought it, but again, nobody came to this sale because it wasn't promoted right. So we're going to research that artist and make sure $40 is the correct price. Travel bar from about 1975, I'd say, looking at the way the people are dressed and the hairstyles. I like this wicker chair. They said that this is only about 30 or 40 years old, but it sure looks like something that might be from the 1930s or 40s, so I think that's going to sell. The fish, I think, is fun. And then these are Bijan, and Bijan is not as valuable as Kurdish Jarrah, but it is another name in metalwork from the 1960s and 70s, and this tells all about caring for your Bijan sculpture. And it also has the signature, and the signature is on the top. Bijan can sell. Some of their stuff is several $100s now. These usually seem to sell in the $100 range, so we'll probably price them somewhere around, oh, I'm thinking 50 to 60, depending. This guy is a really nice piece of glass. They had him marked at $5. That seems like a good deal to me. I cannot find a signature. I am not sure who made it, but it's just, I believe that's supposed to be a powder pigeon, and it's just very cute. Little piece of Lenox there, and I like the fish cutting board. One thing they have are a couple of neat cages for birds. This one is, I believe, newer. It's a metal piece, but it's got a nice look to it, and looks count with this. It's heavy. A lot of people use these as decoration, so I will have to look at this and actually make sure of what era it is. It actually doesn't feel flimsy and lightweight like I would expect, but it does have this sort of fake patina on it. See how it's sort of painted to look old? And if we look underneath, it's got a label. And the label, which is upside down, says it's made in India. I have to say I like that. But we also have an old bird cage here. Now this one's really cool. These sell retail for about $75 now. These were little cages they would give you to bring home your parakeet. They were really just meant for transport. And these were done about 1920. And this one's in really good shape. So I think we'll probably be able to price that around $35 or $40 for the estate sale. And then kind of out of nowhere, I'm sure just because she was fascinated, because a lot of people are, this flower vase was done by a serious designer and has been reissued by the Museum of Modern Art. It's basically parchment paper. They're rather a novelty, and in the 1980s they were very popular to give as gifts, so you will see those around. We have a lazy boy chair, which is not old but in wonderful condition, so that's great. And then two cabinets here, and there's some nice things in the cabinets. Most of the porcelains were painted by the homeowner, but there's some good ones, and she used some nice blanks. The urn is rather attractive. $90 is what she was asking for it. She used to do shows, and so she would actually take these things to shows and sell them herself. And this looks rather like a cider pitcher, but the clue is the lemons. This would have been made for lemonade. But then we also have a whole shelf of Waterford crystal in nice patterns. This is the Donegal pattern. And it even has the original pamphlet on how to take care of it. So that's kind of neat. This down here I think is very good. Really well done. It has the bugs on it that were a trademark of Royal Vienna. So she obviously was trained to paint in a classic style. But this is done on the Julia blank by, I believe this is Seldman Weiden from Bavaria. And that would have been another house that produced blanks for serious porcelain makers back in the 1970s. And then there's some Belique shamrock pieces. Some more Belique here. A nice set of the Metropolitan Seminars in Art from the Metropolitan Museum. We'll have to look those up. I think these sell pretty well. I think at an estate sale we might get $5 each for them, because they tell you all sorts of things. And this is the Metropolitan Museum of Art giving you hints on how to recognize realism and expressionism and abstraction. Here's a nice dragonware vase from the 1950s. These are from Japan. It is a style of moriage where you have the raised enameled painting, but it's strictly dragons. Very popular right after the Second World War. I have a friend who collects. And then these little pieces here are going to be Bing and Grondel. And then this little piggy is Belique. Bunch of old Life magazines, more old books, botanical prints. So for someone who's house proud like this lady was, this should be a good sale. There's some nice linens that have been well segmented and put in nice little bags and are ready to go. Spencer was an artist who studied at the Ringling School of Art here in Florida. John Ringling, the circus man, built a beautiful house south of here in Sarasota and really got the wealthy and trendy of the 1920s to start coming to Florida and having winter homes, because this is where he brought the circus in the wintertime so that the animals could stay warm. Set of 5 rust chairs. This is turned into the children's room. Mostly newer things, but I got such a kick out of seeing this. When I was a little kid, the Beltree xylophone would come out every Christmas. And as soon as Christmas was over, it was the first thing my mother would pack because she got really tired of me doing this. Over and over, and over and over. Oh, and by the way, the thing I'm bashing it with is a Flintstones glass. The Flintstones glasses are cute because there's always one of the characters impressed in the bottom. This one is Dino. The pile of watercolors here was all done by the woman of the house as well. She really was artistic. I think this doubled as her art room. I love the fish. More fish. She didn't actually do a lot of fish. It's funny, I just found those, and there's a magnolia. I just found the fish and thought they were neat looking and put them on the top. More painted porcelain tiles. We've got room to hang another picture or two. And then this is cherry wood rather than mahogany. And cherry wood usually sells for a little bit more. There's just something about this redness. It's kind of like rosewood. People really like this warmth if they're going to buy darker furniture. The shaving mirror is separate. It is not actually a dresser. It's a chest of drawers. And then this will be sold separately because it is not the same kind of wood. This is mahogany. This is a great way to show you the difference between a cherry stain and a mahogany stain. There you go. And then the ruby flash lamps are going to be from about 1960 when this house was built. In here, J.G. Hook Petites USA, so that is an older piece. We do have a little bit of vintage fashion and a few designs inside there. And then this little piece of furniture is also really cute. The proportions and the size, again, are really nice on the furniture in this house because somebody who lives in a small space could buy this stuff. And so even though it's dark wood, I think that these are winners because they've got nice design, nice tracery around the edges. On top, we've got more bottles. The right one here is Mary Gregory. If you saw a few videos back, I talked about how pink faces mean they're European. Well, this is a white face, so this one was made in the United States. And you can take a look down the line here. One piece of sterling overlay. That's a good piece. People love sterling overlay. It is stained, however, and you would have to use a lot of muriatic acid to get that out. So that's a little bit of a deterrent. Some colorful baskets. One fine kitty cat. And then we turn around and we see this. This is a very handsome brass bed. And at least it's a full, so it's big enough for somebody to consider using in modern times. People don't like the skinny twin beds anymore. But it's got really nice design with the floral garlands. This is going to date sometime right around 1910. Also have some various linens here. I don't know whether the quilts have any age or not. I haven't really taken a look. But I think of all of them, this one does. Yes, this looks like an old quilt. Okay, good to know. You can tell by the narrow banding, it's thin, which makes sense because we're in Florida. You didn't need a heavy, heavy blanket. This one is more modern. If you feel it, it's thicker cotton. These are newer patterns of fabric, and these are older patterns of fabric. And there's some synthetic in this fabric that you can feel, and this is all cotton. So as quilts go, this is the type of quilt that you want. And they have it priced at $35. Again, that tells me that no dealers came to this sale because I would have absolutely have bought that at $35 if I came to this sale. And I think most dealers would know to buy that for $35. So that tells me that this place has not really been touched. And then we're going to go into the last room and show you in here past a lovely first stole. Every house from about 1960 has one of these because every woman around 1960 wanted one. And this one was done by Moss Brothers in Florida. Moss Brothers was a local department store, a wonderful store, and they tended to do fashion that was very specific to Florida, a lot of resort wear, beach wear, that sort of thing. So the fact that they were doing fur means fur was really in at a certain point because why would you have fur in Florida otherwise? Some Christmas here, not a lot of vintage, but a few pieces. This little guy, the skier, is from about 1970. This guy is just so crazy with the bug eyes, the Google eyes, and I just think he's great. He's from the 1950s. This, the shiniest star. Now, the star's a little damaged, but this is by Charlotte Beege. And Charlotte Beege, as you see there, she was a designer for Hummel. She did the redheads that Hummel did. And so she was a very well-known artist, and this is from about 1960. And it's talking about the angels and the star, and poor little Touslehad was worried because Touslehad's star did not shine like everyone else's and needed to be polished. But this is a fun one because how many little birds and animals can you find? This was definitely to get kids to be paying attention, but more importantly, somewhere in here, there we go. It is a pop-up. Pop-ups always sell. Pop-ups usually, if they're in decent condition, meaning the pop-up isn't destroyed, and I think there's another one in the back, these sell for 10 to 15 each retail. We're probably going to put $3 or $4 on that instead of the typical $2 Christmas price that we put on things. This set here is Royal Copenhagen. Now, they had a price of $20. One thing that's going to be a little bit of a pain that we're going to get started on here today, because the sale starts tomorrow, is we're going to have to go through and we may have to take prices off and put new prices on, because I don't think that set sells for $20 anymore. Here is a really nice little oak wash stand from about 1890. It's got the candle stands on either side, because again, not everybody has electric light, so where those birds are, that's why these funny little shelves stick out. And it's a nice oak piece, and we pull out the drawer. It seems to work fairly easily. This would be something that I would think would sell in the $150 range retail. So I imagine we'll price it around $75. We have a nice pair of mahogany end tables from about 1940, some nice old chairs, and advertising for the 1936 Pierce Arrow in a frame. What a beautiful car that was. These were very expensive cars in their time. And then we have a few hats, a few Currier and Ives prints that are quite old. This print in the middle is from about 1860. And then some purses. There were a few Whiting and Davis that we have in another room. That gives you the preview of the estate sale, and I've got to get started pricing and getting the rest of the stuff up on the walls and finishing up here. We're trying to be very conscious of safety, and so we do limit the number of people who come in the house right now, and we have a huge bottle of sanitizer, and we make sure that everybody uses it before they enter, because that way they can touch the stuff and we don't have to worry about it. And conveniently enough, I put our email list sign up right next to it so that people can know about future sales, because we do a lot of different advertising, but I'll tell you, the email list really can save your bacon. That is because we had tech problems here yesterday and we were not able to get the advertising on for the general public, all of the other things we do, social media and the estatesales.net. We had trouble uploading the pictures, and so people didn't get the notifications until really late, which means a lot of people who would have been here this morning did not come, but our regular faithful people on the email list did, and it turned out to be perfect because they bought a lot. They were not in a hurry because there weren't a whole lot of other people here, so they weren't just grabbing things. They were really looking and deliberating. And honestly, we sold about as much volume dollar-wise as I expected because they bought more of the good things. Then the general public and the other people who go to estate sales, or people who started at another estate sale first because they thought they saw something they wanted more there, they came around and we ended up having a good day, and it was business as usual. So that's why it's really helpful to have an email list. If you're starting with anything, it may seem old-fashioned because, oh, we can just do everything through social media, but you know, there is nothing like old-fashioned email, and there's a little bit of a personal touch, and gosh, you're talking to me directly, and people like that. Now I'm going to show you the house. Again, we're going to go through fairly quickly because you've seen the main rundown, and I'm going to take pictures. And the first thing you're going to notice is it seems like we didn't really sell anything. Look a little closer and compare. You'll see certain cupboards are now shut off that were empty, or that were full before, and they now are empty. Other things have been moved around. If you look underneath here, a lot of this is gone. But my staff do a wonderful job of keeping things looking full and looking interesting. I mean, the jewelry table, we probably sold $300 worth of jewelry off her, and you cannot even really tell. There was a chair here, which is gone, but our goal is to make it look like the place is still full and still has a lot of interesting stuff, because then the people who come tomorrow, a lot of people work on Friday. This started on a Friday, and a lot of people who work on Friday can't get here. Well, then they come tomorrow, and they're looking at a house that still looks pretty full, rather than a bunch of empty spaces. We want them to focus on what is here to buy rather than what was here that they missed out on. So that's why the place looks pretty full still, in part because even where we sold furniture, we sold the table next to this chair, we move another table in. We sold 2 cabinets in this room. There were a corner cabinet and a Hepplewhite style cabinet in the corner. So we immediately move other furniture into its place. This way, the people who missed out on day one don't feel like they missed out on the whole sale, and they'll come in and look. Look at this wall, for example. This was full of painted tile pictures. Some wonderful pieces done by the lady of the house, who is quite talented, and a lot of them are gone. So what do? We bring pictures up out of the back of the house. We bring things up off the floor. We bring things down to eye level where they're easier to see, and that sells stuff. So we really did have a good day. We did several thousand in business today, actually, and you wouldn't know by looking. I also had to bring in a folding table because the brass bed sold, so it's all disassembled and ready to be picked up tomorrow. And we sold some clothing. So there are things missing. I think that the people who came were pretty savvy. They picked through and bought every old Christmas ornament that was 1950s or 60s vintage, pretty much. And they bought lots of painted porcelain. We sold lamps, we sold furniture, we sold a little bit of clothing. So all in all, it was a good day, and we're happy with how things went. But if you look on the surface, it sure seems like a full house. That's the reason that we're doing a 3-day sale in this house, because we knew it was full. And when you have a lot of things on top of furniture, furniture doesn't usually sell the first day if it's covered up. And sure enough, that was the case here. So as we sell down more tomorrow, we will be moving more and more things off of furniture to make the furniture seem more visible. That's part of the thing that you do in an estate sale, so that people see the things that you have and you have a chance to sell all of it before the final day, which is discount day. And I'd rather sell it for full price than half price. Okay, so we got through day 2, and day 2 was really busy. Saturdays are the day that we generally get the general public, and we had a whole lot of them, and they bought a lot of stuff, including some of the plants. Since this place is going to probably be knocked down, unfortunately, this verdant jungle back here, we let people dig a few plants out because we would like them to get to live on somewhere else as much as possible. And we're going to go in the house and show you. You see a lot fewer boxes. It may look messy, but that's because we've been busy, and we did pretty well. So let's show you what is left. Now you're starting to see some holes. The cupboards are all empty, and the counters are starting to clear out a little bit too. But you'll especially be surprised when you come in here and the dining set is gone, the sideboard is gone. We had to bring in folding tables. Again, we try to make it look full. We keep moving things up. We keep hanging things on the wall. This is what a good estate sale company does, because it makes it look like there's still a lot of stuff here. So at half price tomorrow, this place will look full and interesting for a little while until they raid it. Upholstered furniture is always harder to sell because it has to match your house and your style. Wood furniture is definitely easier to sell, but you'll notice a lot less furniture as we go through the house, especially back in the bedrooms. I'll take you back here. It's a little dark because we have the lights off. I had to turn the lights off. We were here an hour later than our posted hours because we had so many customers. No dresser anymore. The people are picking up the bed tomorrow. So this bedroom is going to be pretty much empty. This bedroom, pretty close to empty. There's no sideboard anymore. It's sold. The nice thing is that we didn't take very many offers on furniture. I held the line on prices because our prices were good. This cherry dresser or chest of drawers is gone from there.
And you know, people recognized that the prices were good, so they went ahead and paid the price. We moved the rush chairs out of this room up into where the dining table used to be, so as a result, we just have the day bed and some various bric-a-brac. Shelves are starting to be really empty. So we're going to have this house cleared out. And maybe someone will fall in love with the house the way it is. It's really been well kept. It's dated. It could use some updates, but it's really still a very attractive house. And I think if you remodeled, it could be perfectly serviceable the way it is. I'm a little surprised the game table is still here, but the Victorian chairs on either side, which were very low and a little hard to sit in, to my surprise, are gone. You'll notice the cabinet is empty. We try to start emptying furniture as much as we can because you can't sell furniture as easily if they can't see it under all the stuff. All the furniture in here, the marble tables, all the little modernist stuff, the few pieces we had, all gone. You might have noticed that there's a ton less hand-painted porcelain, so there we go, right side up. The sale is going well. I'm very excited about it. I'm a little tired. It's time to go home and visit with my YouTube members this evening, and then we'll be back tomorrow. Tonight I've got a level 2 live haul, my monthly thing that the level 2 members get to see first, and I will be doing that, and then we'll be back tomorrow morning for the last day, which is half off day at the estate sale, and we'll show you what's left after that.
This is the third and final day of the estate sale. It is half off day, and my goodness, we already have people hanging out in the carport waiting to get in. We always have a crowd on the morning of half off day. So I'm not going to film them up close because people don't really enjoy that a lot of times. We're going to get started soon, and then we'll show you what's left at the end. Hey, it's George. So we made it through the sale, and I just sent the crew home. It's about an hour after our closing hours. I always figure we're going to need an extra hour because we had someone who came every day of the sale, and she came back with 2 friends right at the end, and they bought a bunch more stuff, which is great. So let's show you what's left. Not much left outside. We even had people digging up plants because, you know, this may well end up being a teardown. And we'd like to see the plants get to live somewhere else. And we also had people take some cuttings, so that was nice. Maybe someone will renovate this place. I hope so, because it really is a nice, decent house with good bones. Not a lot left in terms of vintage and antique in here. You're going to see a lot of functional household items. All the cupboards are empty, which is great. So everything that's sitting out is what's left. And the jewelry got wiped out. Empty table there. We didn't sell the 2 big cabinets. They're a nice size. You know, people are not collecting in the same way they used to, so they're not buying cabinets like this so much anymore. But everything that was here was gone. The game table, the chandelier, everything. A lot of the prints are gone. Silver plate did not do very well. Silver plate usually sells to caterers. And other than that, a lot of people don't want to polish nowadays. So we don't have a lot of call for it otherwise. Most of the hand-painted porcelain done by the lady of the house is gone and sold. There's a little bit left. You'll see a few pieces here and there, but all of the work that she really did a lot of meticulous work in is gone. We sold probably 1/3 of the books, which was great because books are not the easiest sell, but she had some good ones. We sold most of the Adams Calyx ware, and we sold most of the Limoges. The pieces you see left are all the ones that were cracked, chipped, or damaged that people didn't want. We sold most of the art on the wall. The pieces that are left either have staining or breaks in the glass, so it makes sense what's left is here. Rush chairs are hard to sell nowadays. The gal who lived here was petite. Most people don't feel comfortable sitting on these anymore because they're just too light for them. The sofa didn't sell. I'm a little surprised because as sofas go, this is one of the better ones we've had. It was clean and decent, but I'm sure Habitat for Humanity or Salvation Army will come get those. The wingback chairs may have been a little stained at the top, and this chair had a rip in it, so those don't really surprise me. All the vintage linens sold.
And then back in the bedrooms are practically empty. There's, again, a couple of sort of worn-looking old upholstered pieces. A cane chair that the cane is missing from. Some clothes. We actually did pretty well for the clothes. Considering how petite she was, we weren't sure that they would sell, but quite a few sold because she did have fun, colorful taste, and it was decent quality and some good labels. All the vintage Christmas is gone, and almost all the furniture in here, with the exception of the twin beds, which are very hard to sell these days, are gone. Almost all the purses are gone. So we're really looking at a pretty empty house. I think we're going to have a happy client. And in here, the daybed did not sell. It's a little lumpy when you lay on it. I think that's why. There's a few kitty things left, but that's it. This room otherwise, empty closets, empty wall where chests of drawers used to be. So all in all, we were very happy.
But it's always fun to take you through one of the estate sales that we're doing. In the meantime, I'm George the Antique Nomad, and you can catch me here on YouTube on Mondays and Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, and on Instagram and other places in the social media world. Bye for now. We'll see you soon. Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community, here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below. Click the bell to be notified when new videos upload. Leave a comment below and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media daily posts and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.